We're going to talk about companies that are in the business of extracting your intentions and your feelings and your emotions and your experiences, and how it's all commercialized and commoditized. And these are, in my view, just my opinion, you're entitled to your own. This is how the government circumvents things like your Fourth Amendment. Extraction of emotion provides the ability to understand emotion, which then enables the creation of algorithms and AI to then convey emotion back to you in a full loop, a full circle. There are many ways to do this, and we're going to go through this step by step, because it's very important to understand it's so much more than just a microphone and a camera watching you like 1984. It is way worse than 1984. Nevertheless, I haven't gone through this spiel in a while, so I'm going to. This is Big Tech, and if you go to patriotsoapbox.com, you can find the archive notes right here under Read, Watch, Think for Yourself, in addition to a hyperlink that's embedded under Technologic Mind Control, TMC. Things that make you go, So this show is about smart devices, IoT, that's Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, which are, with each passing day, more and more interwoven within all aspects of our society and daily lives. The digital space is maturing into an environment capable of fully immersive, augmented, and virtual reality experiences. Unlocking and internetworking the human mind is no longer science fiction. Our species is transitioning through another giant leap in our evolution. The language of the nervous system and the brain is being decoded and digitized, thus becoming capable of being transmitted over modern telecommunication networks. Together, we will explore modern telecommunication architecture, neurotechnology, and novel medical applications that can replace conventional treatment options. Humanity will continue its epic struggle between the preservation of liberty and privacy versus global oppression and enslavement. We must decide whether we retain our free will or become truly domesticated through technologic mind control. Show notes, again, are up here. Read, watch, think for yourself. If you're on a mobile device, it'll be further down in the scroll, but center screen. And if you read in this narrative, it's a quicker way to get to it. If you're on a mobile device, you don't scroll as far. Get to a page that looks like this. And it is completely and utterly full of links. Most of them work still. Almost all of them work still. Some of them do not. But it goes from show 1 all the way up to now. And then there's a hyperlink here to INTERNETdotORG. And I encourage you to go to INTERNETdotORG and start learning about modern digital devices. This is a work in progress, right? This site is under construction. This is half of me. You can pick which one is the real half and which one is not. And learn. There's media here. If you don't want to read, there's all kinds of media. Some of it's blank. I haven't filled it all in yet. This is a side project. I still have, real obligations, if you will. When I say real, I say that sarcastically because, we all got to eat, but I mean, the system's fucked. So go here and learn. That's all I'm saying. Wireless technology for remote brain interaction, remote brain communication, directed energy systems, how Wi-Fi and ultra wideband tie into it. Little bit on quantum communication, more to follow on that. Lots on nanotechnology, ways to stimulate your brain with nanotechnology, how they can deliver nanotechnology, magnetic nanoparticles, synthetic biology. I think this one's blank. Might be one patent in here. I'm going to fill this stuff in as time goes on, but as time permits. Cyborg cell technologies, Charles Lieber, quantum dots. And then the most important piece, if you haven't looked here yet, is the bioenergy interface, where it talks about electromedicine, the company BrainQ, which is subsidized by IBM and Google. It's an Israeli company that uses electromagnetic fields to literally regrow your brain and or to stimulate and modulate specific neural circuits using electromagnetic fields and things that are like embedded in the walls of a room, for example. So they can create really interesting electromagnetic fields, nerve stimulation, and then wearable and mobile devices. This is all the fun and game stuff that you buy your children. Watches, earphones, antennas, camera technology. We'll look at camera technology either this episode or next, because this has everything to do with understanding what's going on with your face and your biometrics, which is how these companies that we're going to look at today gather information about you, in particular your emotional state. Having said that, this all started when this little series, if you will, started with chatbots, creating conversational chatbot of a person where they extract every possible thing they can. They scrape all the digital data and they put it through machine learning, and they create a virtual digital version of you or anybody else, up to and including historical figures. Right, so you can have dead people come back to life in augmented and virtual reality. That they're working on trying to make as a real person can be, and then they're going to turn around and sell it to you as uploading your consciousness to the cloud. And this will be the future. Upload your consciousness to the cloud and live forever. But what's the trade-off, right? Do you have to strip away the meat suit so you can blast off into immortality, into the digital space? Are you really living forever? Or is it a fake version of you because they've scraped enough of your data? Think about children now and their exposure to mobile devices early on in their life, and how much information is going to be collected on them from birth until death, so that their progeny, or if they become famous, anybody who wants to, can interact with this person from the age of 5 or the age of 10 or the age of 15 or the age of 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, because they will have understood everything about them, because they will be in this fully immersive sensor-based environment. Cameras and microphones only scratch the surface. When you start looking at sensor platforms in what is to become the Internet of Things, and more specifically, what is to become in or within the Internet of Everything, and humans are encompassed within the Internet of Everything, which is why this notion of chatbots and using this as a presentation platform, right, that we can easily understand what it takes to extract valuable information out of a person or people to then use it in the digital space, whether it is to make money or to create a fake facsimile of somebody to then present to somebody else. And this can be used for constructive purposes or destructive purposes, right? Teaching with augmented reality could revolutionize how people learn. Learn while you dream in a dream state, where you go through completely immersive environment of history, like old Western history or old European history, and wake up and have a period of time where all of those dreams, those implanted memories, if you will, are then reassimilated while you're awake and conscious. And the beauty of it is that you get an emotional experience potentially with this training that then solidifies the knowledge. And so the ability to rapidly learn is one possible outcome when you look at the underlying components of how this kind of technology is going to be fitted together. The other possible outcome is that you convince people to induce themselves into an augmented or virtual reality state, foregoing their own real reality, and look and seek for pleasure, satisfaction, and gratification in a virtual space rather than reality altogether. And if we go that path, we are going to lose. We're going to lose our independence. We're going to lose our free will. We're going to lose this idea of what it is to be human. Nonetheless, these tools are coming online. In fact, in my opinion, they're already here. That's why I encourage you to go to INTERNETdotORG, because it's just scratching the surface of what's possible. That's why I think you should spend some time there. Requires reading, a lot of it's patents, most of it's patents, but that's where the intellectual property is protected. That's why it's so important, and it's very, very dry. So on the note of emotion, we did cover memorable event detection, where it discusses having your phone, for example, understand when you're having an elevated emotional experience so that it can document it, and go so far as to listen to things like your speech or your dialogue with your friends so that it understands when you're going to the party in 3 days, so that it can set a reminder for you, and so that it can understand and recall the event for you at a later time. Fully immersive interactivity with your mobile device or with the digital space, so that it can record and understand your emotional state and apply context around it, what you were doing, who you were with, how they felt during the process, and recording all of it, all of the sentiment, all of the experience, everything. And we went over how to induce emotion and how to extract emotion as well. I did not pull that up, but I will here very, very shortly. It is right here, a method for monitoring bioelectromagnetic fields. And this is a patent from IBM that talks about using a wire coil to collect your emotional state, as well as to transmit an emotional state into another person. And you can record your emotional state and attach it like a picture on an email, or you can attach it to a text message, or you can attach it to anything, so that when the recipient, the person you're sending it to, receives the communication, text, video, picture, whatever, as they're receiving that communication, they get the emotional experience that you attach to it. Happiness, pleasure, sadness, irritation, disappointment, disgust, fear, whatever. So then we looked at a Facebook patent that talks about this is Facebook right here, Facebook, using a wireless radio to manage power consumption, where it talks about using backscatter technology to collect radio frequencies that are transmitted through the air, not directly to the device, but it's just background backscatter. They call it backscatter, not necessarily a primary communications radio signal. They're able to gather that stuff up with the antennas in a mobile device and power your device without a battery in it to do things like activate or access your email, your calendar, your camera, your microphone. Obviously, it's activating and using your antennas because that's how it's collecting and harvesting the power, as well as transmitting the information to and from your device without a battery in it. This patent talks about being able to do this without notifying the user. Full access to your mobile device, connected to a Facebook network, to extract anything off of it, potentially put information onto it without an official connection, and remotely activate, power, and transmit to and from your sensors, camera, microphone, antennas, speakers, proximity sensors, gyroscopes, magnetometers, Hall sensors, and on and on and on and on and on. Let's not forget the infrared emitting devices that we understand as unlocking your phone with your face. That came after this patent was produced, but nonetheless, it is a sensor on the phone, and it is well within the embodiment of this patent to remotely power the infrared lasers and the infrared projectors. And it might not seem important to you right now, but when we get into how light, particularly infrared light, can stimulate the nervous system, it might matter a little bit more. But that's for another day. So out of this patent, there is a figure number 13 that looks like this. And what this is illustrating is a social network. And this is important while we move forward with the main body of discussion today. because the social network provides an underlying architecture to provide context to the emotional extraction that is being done by companies like Nielsen and Affectiva. And we will look at those companies in some detail today. Social media networks, as well as the network set up by Apple and Google and Microsoft and Amazon and even telecom networks, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T. Those networks connect everything. It is a physical and a virtual architecture that provides a platform to absorb or collect context as well as anything about you. What you say, what you do, where you go, who you go with, what you like to eat, what you like to drink, what movies you like to watch, what food you like to cook, what you buy. And in addition to that, how you feel while you're doing all of those things, up to and including interacting with your children and fucking your spouse. So, Nielsen is one of them. And I want to show you just how networked Nielsen is, and Affectiva is as well, but Nielsen's been around for a very, very long time. These, in my view, they're top of the heap, right? We'll get back to the social network stuff in a minute. Nielsen cross-media currency becomes reality with Nielsen 1. So they've changed this header, but you see it right here, right? The audience is everything, right? They're in the business of understanding consumption down to a neurologic level, how you literally respond to stimulus, how you respond to your environment. Nielsen Global. There's a few Nielsen companies that are global. This is Nielsen Global, but they've broken them up into pieces. And here's an article that says that Nielsen will accelerate the use of cloud and AI tech. February 28th, 2019. And it gets into what this is all about. So going forward, Nielsen Global Media includes Nielsen audience measurements, planning and optimization offerings. So this is all big tech, big data stuff. I'm not going to read this article. We read it once upon a time, a long, long time ago. Just know that Nielsen is looking at using the cloud, which connects everything, and AI, which is a generic term for machine learning, data analytics, using big data computation or big data sets, and applying artificial intelligence to run and understand consumer and user sentiment. Nielsen adds Facebook to social media ratings with Twitter. So this is an article back from 2016 that discusses Nielsen partnering with big tech, what we understand as big tech, major players with big tech. It gets better. So Facebook, Twitter use Nielsen. Why? Because Facebook and Twitter have the platforms to collect the information that Nielsen needs to provide consumer analysis, consumer sentiment. Now may be a good time to show you this. Here's a patent from Nielsen, analysis of marketing and entertainment effectiveness using the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system and effector data. Analysis of marketing and entertainment. Oh, it's just for consumption. What would the government do with this information? If this patent said analysis of general population's sentiments and feelings about government through analysis of the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and effector data, do you think that that would be allowed? Or do you think people would have a problem with that? They say, hey, the government's violating my constitutional rights. But for marketing and entertainment purposes, well, hell, all we got to do now is get people to agree to terms of service in order to use the platform like Facebook or Twitter. And hey, we get around that, and then we can just turn around and sell this information to the government. And it's a legal loophole because the consumer has agreed under the terms of service to use a platform like Facebook or Twitter to allow this information to be collected. So let's see what it is. Central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, two different nervous systems. Central nervous system is your spinal cord, basically up to your brain stem, right? Central nervous system. And brain, if you want to call that too, because they talk about electroencephalography here. So they're measuring your brainwaves. The autonomic nervous system is the rest of it. Arms, legs, organs, all that tie into your spinal cord that then sends everything up to your brain. So you got the main pipe, spinal cord, and all the branch nerves that come out off the spinal cord that go to the rest of the organs in your body and hands and legs and feet and all those other fun places that we don't talk about that much. That's the autonomic nervous system. So, data collection mechanism, including multiple modalities such as electroencephalography, EEG, electrooculography, which is like eyes, right? Watching your eyes. So screens, cameras that are pointed at you while you're looking at a screen. They can look at your eyes and understand where you're looking at the screen. They can see pupil dilation. They can see blood flow. They can see a lot of stuff and extract that information and make very accurate assumptions and predictions about, are you staring off to the lower right corner because there's a dude there with his shirt off? Or because some chick's wearing a thong? Do you typically spend more time focusing on blonde versus brunette? I don't know, but Nielsen probably does. Galvanic skin response, that's the electrodermal activity on your skin. So how much conductivity is in your skin? Electrical conductivity out of your skin. They can measure that with electrodes through something like a smartwatch, and they could remotely measure it too with something like the Google radar patents, which we've talked about in the past. They can measure moisture content on your skin using radar. Electromagnetic energy. That's within the FCC requirements. And according to Elon Musk, that there's nothing wrong with electromagnetic energy as long as it's below the FCC requirements, which is exactly what a CEO of Starlink would say to protect his assets. So they're collecting this information, your brain waves, your eye tracking, your galvanic skin response, and other things, right? While you're exposed to marketing and entertainment stimuli. Yes, of course. And they talk about how they do it and on and on and on. So give you a brief example here and then we'll move on. Overview. Central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and effector data is measured and analyzed to determine the effectiveness of marketing and entertainment stimuli. A data collection mechanism including multiple modalities such as EEG, EOG, and galvanic skin response collects response data from subjects exposed to marketing and entertainment stimuli. Conventional mechanisms, right? You get a phone call, hey, do you like this show? Do you like that show? Or reply back, to a survey group in writing or email or something like that, right? Conventional ways. And then they talk about some other ways. Some efforts have been made to use isolated neurological and neurophysiological measurements. Neurological, brainwaves and nervous system. Neurophysiological is how your body responds to stimuli. Do you sweat a little bit more? Do your pupils dilate a little bit? Does your heart rate change? Does your respiration change? How about your body temperature? I mean, how hot really is she? Is she just a little hot or she's super hot? Right? They know. They know. Some examples of central nervous system measurement mechanisms include fMRI or electroencephalography. fMRI measures blood oxygenation in the brain, and that correlates with increased neural activity. Well, blood oxygenation in the brain can also be measured with infrared light. And if you go to humanInternet.org and you go to the media section in humanInternet.org and you look at biomachine interfaces, you will see a link here to Regina Dugan's keynote at Facebook, F8 2017. And Regina Dugan provides an example of being able to read somebody's brain, in order to type out text at 100 words per minute without using a keyboard. And she literally talks about reading the speech centers in the brain and filtering out what you want to say versus your personal thoughts. And that Facebook would never, ever, ever, ever do anything but read and understand what you wanted to type out in something like a Facebook post or an instant messenger transmission. She actually makes that distinction. I'll have you note that Regina Dugan is a former head of DARPA in the 2000s, early 2000s, right? I think it went, oh, excuse me, it was the late 2000s. I think it was 08, 09, somewhere in there. And then she moved to Google for a number of years, right? And then she moved to Facebook, and she's making statements like this. And in this example, they use light. They use infrared light. They talk about using infrared light and understanding how the light bounces around and absorbs in the brain to be able to reverse create the trajectory of the light. And from that reverse creation of the trajectory, they're able to understand things like blood flow in your brain, to understand neural firing. And anyway, if you haven't watched this, you should. The other one you should watch is New Brain Computer Interface Technology. It's crazy. And these are years ago at this point. They were published. So they talk about autonomic nervous system response, galvanic skin response, electrocardiograms, pupillary dilation. We're going back to this Nielsen patent, excuse me. And this is groundwork here because I'm going to show you another Nielsen patent that talks about gathering this information from social media applications using something like your phone. That's coming up very, very shortly. Autonomic nervous system measures or can be measured using galvanic skin response, the conductivity on your skin, something like a smartwatch or a radar field can measure that. An electrocardiogram, again, a radar field, a Wi-Fi signal can measure your electrocardiogram. Pupillary dilation, camera, simple. Effector measurement mechanisms include electrooculography, eye tracking, facial emotion encoding, camera, reaction time, etc. Even the way that you type information on a keyboard or a phone can be useful information. How hard are you pressing? How fast are you typing? How many mistakes are you making? Some conventional mechanisms cite a particular neurological or neurophysiological measurement characteristic as indicating a particular thought, feeling, mental state, or ability. For example, one mechanism purports the contraction of a particular facial muscle indicates the presence of a particular emotion. We will look at some of that shortly. Others measure general activity in particular areas of the brain and suggest that activity in one portion may suggest lying, while activity in another portion may suggest truthfulness. Oh, they can remotely access your brain with light or electromagnetics. The question then becomes, can they read the same kinds of things? And if you wonder at all, rather than just saying, no, that's not possible, no, impossible, go to INTERNETdotORG, go to the wireless tab, and look at brain communication remote control. And there are patents here that discuss in detail ways to measure the brain with electromagnetics, which means no contact, folks. No contact. There's quite a few, and there's quite a few more that I haven't put on the site. Here's one for literally putting you to sleep with electromagnetic. This is a weapon system eliminating a fighting strength of an opposing combatant using electromagnetic waves, where they resonate the sleep center in your brain and they instantly dump sleep hormone into your brain that shuts off your brain and puts you into your deep sleep state. And when you're in a deep sleep state, your brain separates from your body. And what I mean by that is the muscle signaling is locked. It's hampered while you're in a deep sleep. So you literally lose muscle control while you're sleeping. Your autonomic muscles still work. Heart, right? Sphincter, bladder, intestines, all that stuff, lungs, all those things still work, but the muscle system, moving your arms and legs and that kind of stuff, they don't. Talks about that in his patent, using electromagnetics. Anyway, trying not to digress too much. What else is in here before we move on? I think we're going to move, just to give you an idea that this is going on. So let's continue forward. Before I show you some video, I'm going to go through this patent. And this is the one that talks about using your phone, a system and a method for analyzing biometric user feedback analyzing biometric user feedback for use in social media and advertising applications. Here it is. Nielsen, again, Nielsen Company, US, originally in 2013, enough of a revision in 2017. System and a method for measuring biologically and behaviorally based response. So they're measuring your physical, your physiological, and your neurological signals and behavior based on your response to social media, locations, or experiences, and providing instant and continuous feedback in the response thereto, which means it's going to the Nielsen AI that we looked at and the Nielsen cloud that we looked at, and it's going to groups like Facebook and Twitter. So let's look at this again. Behaviorally based and biologically based, neurologic, right? And autonomic, physiologic, behaviorally based responses to social media, locations, or experiences. Now, remember this? This image came out of the Facebook backscatter patent, where it's able to remotely power
your mobile device and activate your sensors. Hmm. You mean so that a group like Nielsen, just one example, right, can gather and analyze my biometrics wherever I am, doing whatever I'm doing with whoever I'm socializing with? I see. I see here. So user A, user B, C, D, doesn't matter. They're all linked. Everybody's linked together in this social mesh network. Who you work with, who you go to school with, who you socialize with, who your family is, how much time you spend with any of those respective parties, where you go, what you do, what you eat, what you drink, what you listen to, all of it. And then how you feel, your biologic, physiologic, and behaviorally based responses to anything and everything you do in your life. Now, what kind of a wet dream is this for groups like the CIA? Or we can just say the ODNI as a whole. NSA, CIA. If you get a FISA, right? DOJ, FBI, on and on and on. Was there 18 intelligence agencies, 17 intelligence agencies? And then some, I'm sure we don't even know about. And that's not even counting all the contractors. And then the contractors who contract to other contractors who all get access to these upstream projects, these upstream data sets that do things like manage and manipulate all the metadata. Metadata, folks. How do you think a company like Nielsen is able to collect this kind of information without violating your privacy? Oh, no. We we just we just gathered the sentiment and all of the other identifiable information is anonymized. Yeah, bullshit. You mean like where I was at? No. That's metadata. Why? Because it doesn't matter who was there. We just want to know how people feel while they're there. Sure. So it doesn't matter that my phone was there. It doesn't matter that my IP address, my MAC address, doesn't matter that you have a complete and total profile history of where my device has gone. This is where the AI and the cloud piece comes into play, because if they want to understand demographics, they want to study people that make between 50 and 100,000 a year in a relatively sedentary job. So, something at a desk that maybe works in the tech sector, that are college educated. You can break down demographics however you want. It's just a basic example. Why wouldn't AI and the cloud and all these systems anonymize all of those people that meet those demographic criteria and then pull all the information off their device to understand their entire life? But wait, we've anonymized it. There's nothing identifiable about you. If you believe that they in fact are masking your data and only using metadata, I say that you're an idiot. Because the Constitution doesn't mean a fucking thing to these people. They want money, they want power. And your food, straight up, your food. So, without digging too much into this, I want to show you some extracts out of this understanding your biometrics when you look and deal with social media, where you go, who you go with, anything and everything, right? There are many different kinds of audio-visual and audio-visual presentation and activities that people are exposed to every day. Well, let's break that down a little bit. Audio and audio-visual presentations. What are we immediately thinking? Oh, okay, well, when I'm scrolling through my feed or when I'm looking at YouTube or whatever, right? What about when you're driving in your car? What about when you're interacting with a coworker? What about when you're interacting with your family? What about when you're at a restaurant? What about when you're walking down the road? Are you experiencing audio and visual stimuli? And the answer in short is abso-fucking-lutely. You are. You are. These presentations serve as a sensory experience that stimulate our senses and are known to result in biologically based responses that can be measured electronically and mechanically. For example, heart rate, respiration, blood pressure, and skin conductance. All of these things can be measured with electromagnetic radiation, in addition to wearable sensors, as well as with a camera. Minus the skin conductance. I have not found that one with a camera just quite yet. Albeit, I bet they could make good inferences if they knew what skin conductance of a particular person was while their heart rate was something, and while their respiration was something, and while their blood pressure was something. They could very likely infer skin conductance looking at a camera. Instantaneous and continuous feedback. Facebook is used as an example in here. The like button in Facebook, right? What they want to do is replace something like the like button to make it more convenient. Rather than you going to a restaurant or interacting somewhere in your environment and then clicking the like button for wherever you are, completely publicizing your life for free, but manually doing it by pressing buttons on a screen. They want to be able to measure this stuff in the background so you don't have to touch anything, and they'll measure it, like they said in the patent, in real time, all the time. All the time. A system and a method that integrates passive biometric sensors into smartphones. Oh, passive biometric sensors into smartphones. Radar is a biometric sensor. Cameras are a biometric sensor. A microphone is a biometric sensor. Your antennas that emit proximity field sensing, and your near field communication chip in your phone, as well as your transmit antenna for the Wi-Fi and for the cell towers, all are biometric sensors. Smartphones or other portable devices, right? To collaborate with or eliminate the like button, right? So to not have to need you to manually input how you feel about something, they are going to replace it with a continuous stream of emotional responses across all experiences. A need also exists in the art for a biometrically enabled suite of applications that are built into smartphones. A biometrically enabled suite of applications. That's more than one app. A biometrically enabled suite of apps that are built into smartphones, built into them, not downloaded, built into smartphones, tablets, and other social media enabled devices. Now, F9 algorithm comes to mind, but that's just one. Just saying. To determine when a user unconsciously or subconsciously likes or dislikes their current experience. Are you having an argument with your hubby? Are your children behaving? Do you really, really like your boss or not? What about your coworkers? How about the asshole that's driving 5 miles under the speed limit? 5 miles per hour under the speed limit. But in their examples here, they're saying things like something as benign and gentle as a web page or an app or a song or a video or a location. And the other stuff I said a minute ago is the other experiences, other examples. And also to remotely monitor the user's stress levels and well-being. Now, gee, where could this go? Do you see how the consumer markets potentially asterisk, just for entertainment purposes? Do you see how the consumer markets potentially circumvent your constitutional rights? biometric data collectors incorporated into a mobile device or into a case of a mobile device. All right. Let's move on. You kind of get the idea. Let's go back here. We see that Facebook and Twitter, right? They're paired up with Nielsen. I just showed you 2 patents from Nielsen. I will close those down here so that we stay moving in a forward direction. Another article here, Nielsen and Facebook form a strategic alliance. This was all the way back in 2009. Facebook and Nielsen to partner on ad stats. And here's one, Nielsen and Google. Nielsen and Google join forces to help marketers accurately measure the return of investment on their digital media investments. ROI, return on investment. 2017, April 19th. Nielsen announces today it has been named to Google's marketing mix, right? The Model Partner Program. As a preferred partner, this program enables Nielsen to collect Google advertising impressions and spend data directly from Google in a standardized, granular, and accurate way. Collectively, this combines the power of Nielsen's marketing mix modeling capabilities and Google's media data to ensure that advertisers can measure their ROI for their digital investments. Now, can you imagine the access that Nielsen has with this type of a partnership to Google's footprint? What is Google's footprint? It's the earth, the whole earth, and likely then some. So, Nielsen and Google. Nielsen and Google drive unprecedented advertiser value through their marketing mix modeling program. Nielsen and Google just inked a deal for mobile ad measurement. Microsoft and Nielsen partner to bring personalized data closer to reality. Facebook, Twitter, Google, and Microsoft. Think about their cloud infrastructure. Think about the footprints they have all the way out to mobile devices and computers. Desktops, laptops, tablets, mobile devices, their software running on infrastructure. I'm talking telecommunications infrastructure. I'm talking cloud server infrastructure. The footprint is everywhere. Microsoft, Nielsen partner to bring personalized data to reality for the CPG industry. This article was back in 2018. Crazy. Microsoft's Azure cloud platform. Nielsen and third-party data on the CPG industry sales, pricing, media buying, and other things together all in one place under the Microsoft Azure platform. So they are giving Nielsen access to Microsoft's entire cloud. I think Microsoft has the JEDI contract for the Pentagon, $10 billion contract for the Pentagon to manage their stuff. So, it's corporations today are just public faces for lots of government activity. I mean, we really are living in a form of fascism. We really are. I mean, the whole world. But in specifically where I live, the U.S., United States, I mean, this is it. Like we're there. I think we're there. Fascism. Microsoft and Nielsen accelerate retail innovation through data and AI. Nielsen and Twitter team up for social TV ratings. Nielsen and Twitter take relationship global with digital ad ratings. Snapchat and Nielsen partner to integrate offline data for audience targeting. Oh, so this goes back to the multiple applications being built into smart devices and tablets and mobile computers that we looked at in that Nielsen patent for collecting your biometrics, from collecting information about your nervous system and your brain and your eyes and your face, right? So they can collect this stuff offline and archive it, right? Store it on your phone and then dump it onto the network when a network is available. And if you look at the Facebook patent with the backscatter technology that we looked at, right? You don't even need a battery in your phone. Your phone could be turned off, but if there's enough radio power in the environment, it will just upload it to the servers all by itself. And this patent specifically talks about sending requests to the base station, to the cell tower or the Wi-Fi, to crank up the power to power the device without a battery. So your device could have software on it that tells the base station to crank up the background radiation so that the device can extract power from the cranked up radiation being emitted from a cell tower or a Wi-Fi device or potentially a satellite, to then transmit and receive information back and forth and do things like transmit all of your information that it's collected offline, right? Offline data, to transmit it and just burp it out. And off it goes on Facebook's network. And when we start looking at device to device communication, it can offload it to someone else's device if it's nearby. So controlling a radio, controlling a wireless radio to manage power, if your phone's dead or your phone's off, or your phone's not on the network that is providing service in the area, like you don't have service, but the person next to you in the restaurant or the train or at work or whatever has network connectivity, this patent potentially provides Facebook the opportunity to set up what they call a local link, a device-to-device communications link, and then your information can be remotely transmitted to somebody else's device, which would then upload it to the network. And the device-to-device communication technology is coming to fruition with 5G. It's here with 4G, but it's not developed. 5G is going to rely on device-to-device communication for pinpoint accuracy, geospatial awareness, as well as reduced energy consumption. The networks will be able to transmit data to somebody else's phone who's nearby you, and then that phone will use its own power that you pay for to transmit that data to the intended recipient. So think about it as like blockchain style hippity hop, hippity hop, hippity hop, only it's your YouTube video. So everybody who gets the device to device communication just gets a little buzz of radiation, bzz, because some ding dong down the way, he wants to watch a 4K video. And with what they call cognitive radio, they can pick and choose which devices get pinged. So if you're not liked very much, who's to say that your device gets picked more frequently to offload data that you're not even using? So you get power withdrawn out of your phone. You get reduced battery life, which means you have to power your device, charge your device more often. And because your device is typically next to you, you get irradiated with a received signal and a transmitted signal more frequently than somebody else. This is the world that we are building, folks. I will show you device-to-device technology as time goes on, after we start looking at directed energy systems, provided I have time and resources. Let's continue. Oh, Nielsen and China and Alibaba join forces on a new product performance index. Nielsen, China, and Alibaba. Global company, folks. Soaking and sucking, sanguinating your biometrics, your nervous system responses, central and autonomic, as well as your brain waves, as well as what's going on with your eyes. And from if they can watch your eyes on a camera, they can measure things like steady state evoked potentials from your eyes, which has to do with how your brain waves are firing in your brain. It's incredibly sophisticated. But hey, we're all using Zoom, so that's a China-made product, and you know they got cameras on everybody now. We're all locked down because we're pissing ourselves over the fucking flu. But anyway, what else is in here? Nielsen Neuroscience. Nielsen Minimeter would fit inside of a smartwatch. Oh, interesting. All right. So you get the idea, right? Nielsen is in bed, lovingly in bed with big tech, with global networks, global alliance of networks, because, you know, you got Google and China and Facebook and Twitter and Microsoft. I mean, where when you hear all those names, where in the world are those companies combined, right? Out of all those companies, where in the world are they not? Anywhere in the world, you're going to have some footprint of either a Twitter, a Facebook, a Google, a Microsoft, or a China. So we will move on. We will close some of these down. And we will continue forward. I think we're going to watch some TV for a second. I want to show you a little bit about Nielsen. This is 2013.
Tis the season. Retailers want you in the door, opening your wallet and buying their brands. The question on their minds, what makes one person hand over their hard-earned cash while another hangs on to it?
Anything that we watch, we see, we hear, we listen, we touch, we taste, we smell. Well, finally, it all ends up in the brain. So, if only we could know what persuades us.
This upstart research firm in Berkeley, California, is working on an answer. Instead of looking at what happens in the mall, they're looking deep into the consumer's brain.
Neuromarketing is just using science to understand what motivates us and what makes us who we are and what makes us behave in certain ways.
AK Pardeep is the founder of NeuroFocus, the biggest neuromarketing company of its kind.
Well, how does the brain react to the free part of the free camera phone? Does she get it?
His enthusiasm is obvious and contagious.
All the highs we need, we get in at work every day. The action happens in the brain, and we are as close to it as we possibly can.
This team of neurophysiologists and scientists is working to measure the human brain.
We directly reach into the brain to understand how the consumer feels about your ad and your brand and your product.
Okay, Diane, so we've got you all hooked up.
First, they invite a pre-screened consumer to the office. The setup is pretty straightforward. The sensors measure electrical impulses via electrodes placed on the scalp at an eye-popping rate of 2,000 times per second. That massive data flow is coupled with this pixel-level eye tracking device and these tabs that will measure changes in the skin's electrical conductance.
Then we let you watch the ad. As you watch the ad, second by second, in fact 2,000 times a second, we look at your attention, your emotional engagement, your memory retention. And from that, we composite a measure of effectiveness second by second by second.
The neurophysiologist watches the brainwave patterns in real time.
Yeah, let's take a look at your brainwaves. Excellent.
These squiggly lines provide a millisecond by millisecond printout of how this consumer's reacting to Daily Planet. But this isn't the whole story.
Looking at brain waves is beautiful, but it doesn't tell you much. So what we have done is we have broken it down into the 3 key parameters. Just 3.
Those 3 parameters are attention, emotional engagement, and memory retention. Neuroscientists already know which part of the human brain corresponds to each of those parameters, and from those measures, they infer more.
Yeah. So neuroscientists already know what parts of the brain do what, and they can, they know so much about us. They know so much about us. Here's another one. Nielsen.
I think I'm the CES for 5 years now, and I'm starting to lose that initial excitement that I once had. I'm here today covered in Nielsen Consumer Neurosciences Census, and they're going to tell me what, if anything, I'm still excited about at CES. These eye tracking glasses capture video. The pink circle is what I'm looking at any given moment, and the blue bar of a white circle at the bottom is my current level of engagement. Nielsen's neuroscientists combine data from heart rate, skin, eye tracking, and breathing monitors to see how excited or engaged I am at any given time. Looking at the flat blue line, you can tell that I don't care about any of this stuff. At the LG booth though, something's really different. And it's a TV. I'm a sucker for super thin TVs, and LG's new OLED, as you can see, is very, very thin. You're probably asking yourself, what is this for? Who wants to know what you're looking at and what you're thinking? Advertisers, of course. This is just a fun way for Nielsen to show off exactly what it's been doing for years, using technology to tell companies what their audiences care about. Later this year, they'll start using brainwave monitoring to get an even clearer picture of what viewers are thinking. Advertisements are the future, and Nielsen's neuroscientists want to make sure they're exciting.
Yeah. So all the stuff you saw on him, he had some on his fingers to measure the skin conductance, and then he had the eyeglasses with the camera, with eye tracking. It's able to see what he sees and see him at the same time. Battery packs on that thing. That was 2016. 2016 with what they were willing to give somebody to go out in the environment and use in real time. Right? And we just looked at some patents to talk about they're able to do this stuff with your damn phone that's next to you or on your body most of the time. How often is your phone 6 feet or less away from you? And it might be easier to think about, maybe not, maybe a better way to state that question is how often is your phone away from you greater than 6 feet? And then you could sub that down. When you're not at home, how often are you away from your phone? When you're not at home. Here's more. (2018).
When thinking about the trends we see in consumer neuroscience over the last few years, I think of two in particular. One, we've moved from special occasion use to more mainstream use. And what I mean by special occasion, we always got the hard questions. Clients put out a campaign into the world and they expected it to achieve a certain amount of success and it hasn't. Why is that? Why isn't it working? Or they're working on a very new direction, something they've never done before, and we would get the call using the best tools to try to capture both that non-conscious and conscious response that consumers have. Now what we're seeing is that with the success of that work, clients are really starting to build us into their everyday work, which is very exciting for us. That means we're having a bigger impact. The second trend is, while initially the consumer packaged goods companies were really the first movers in this space, we're now starting to see other verticals get engaged with consumer neuroscience. So the financial sector, technology sector, automobile are all starting to play in this game with these fabulous tools to really get that holistic view of consumer engagement. When people ask me what makes great advertising, I always say there are many roads to emotional engagement. There's really no one emotion that our clients can or should focus on. But if you're to think about what we see consistently over and over again, it's that people engage with stories. And so telling compelling stories that have a clear payoff and that use relatable characters and integrate the brand, product, or service into that story is really the most consistent way we see to deliver engaging advertising that breaks through the clutter of the modern media landscape. A bit of advice I would give clients coming into the space for the first time is to really read and ask questions. By read, I mean search the internet, look for books of which there are nuanced game with these fabulous tools to really get that holistic view of consumer engagement. When people ask me what makes the consumer packaged goods companies were really the first movers in this space, we're now starting to see other verticals get engaged with consumer neuroscience. So the financial sector, technology sector, automobile are all.
Okay, so tech sector, financial sector, and automobiles are looking at neuroscience. So automobiles, right? Attention on the road, how you drive. This is all going to tie into insurance. They have sensors now that go into cars that monitor your brain. And we've looked at those patents. You can look up Freer Logic for as an example. And there's sensors that they're biosensors basically, but all they really are electromagnetic antennas. And there are companies like Vyar and Tira that are Israeli based that they have very, very good information on their websites that show how this stuff can be used in a vehicle to understand who's in the vehicle, where they are, what they're doing, and whether or not they're paying attention and whatnot. Understanding your brainwaves. That's a car. The financial sector, good God, can you imagine what Wall Street is able to do with these neuroscience techniques if they're able to extract the stuff off of a smartwatch or out of your phone? All of your sentiment. I mean, it's the game is rigged. Straight up, the game is rigged. And we're going to watch the first few minutes of this one. And this is 2016, and we'll move forward.
So my name is Dr. Carl Marcy. I'm the Chief Neuroscientist for Nielsen Consumer Neuroscience, and I'm at the ARF today talking about a really groundbreaking study where we combined in-market sales from single source data from Nielsen Catalina across 60 consumer packaged goods ads, and then looked at the ability of different neuroscience measures, including facial coding, biometrics, and EEG, to predict those outcomes. And so we're thrilled to be here.
So what brought about this study? Why do this at this time?
Yeah, it's a good question. So Leslie Wood and I were together in Las Vegas at CBS Television City, and she said they were really excited because they had figured with their data that they were pretty close to a pure measure of the creative, meaning they could control for the targeting, for the media weight, the timing of the advertising, and really isolate just the impact of the creative itself without those other variables on sales. And I said, wow, that's fantastic. We think we have a great measure of creative. What if we put the two together? And then Dave Holtrack from CBS said, I'd be very interested in that, and provided the funding. So it was really a great meeting in the minds and somewhat serendipitous.
Can we get into a little bit of the details of the components of creative that you feel you can measure through neuroscience?
Sure. If you think about traditional copy testing using surveys, typically online, there are sort of three dimensions. Do you remember it? Do you like it? Would you buy it? If you think about the neuroscience measures, there's three non-conscious dimensions: attention, emotion, and memory. And so what the tools that we've put together in this study allow us to do is to measure without asking any questions, passively, as viewers experience the ad, each of those dimensions second by second. And then we can put those metrics that we can derive from that into a statistical model and see if they relate to sales.
Are you able to tell me which neuroscience techniques you use to measure each of those three?
Sure. Yep. So let's start with EEG. That's the most complex. Electroencephalography. We're using 32 sensors coming off of the brains of consumers. And from those sensors, we can derive each of those three measures: a measure of attentional processing, emotional motivation, and then memory activation. And then with the biometrics, we can get to another dimension of emotion, which is sort of the emotional intensity. And then with the facial coding, we can get at a third dimension of emotion, which is, does someone like it? Do they smile? Do they frown? Or do they look surprised? And really, if you think about emotion and all its complexity, we're able to capture three of the most important components. How much energy is in it? Is this something I want to approach or avoid? Or something I like, I dislike?
So when it comes to facial expressions, can you parse out the time that somebody might have a very negative expression but could therefore be incredibly engaged?
It's a good question. So we don't think, and in fact this study somewhat supports the fact that a negative response is a bad thing. If you think about it, sometimes if you're selling headache medicine, you might show people who are suffering from headaches, and people may have a concerned look on their face, and that can register negative, but it means they're very much engaged. So one of the things we're finding is that indifference is what kills advertising. And so really getting any emotional response is better than no emotional response.
So any emotional response is better than no response?
In general, that's a suggestion from this data, yes. In other words, a negative expressed emotion did not have a negative impact on sales.
So now that you've captured all of the neuroscientific responses, how did you then?
All right. I want to reiterate for you what the guy said when they were talking about EEG, right? Oh, with 32 sensors on the head, and we measure it with 32 sensors on the head. Yeah, EEG, electroencephalogram. All right, well, here's an EEG monitor with capacitive electrodes and a method of monitoring brain waves. What's the patent for this? So we've got electrodes that go on an earbud that gets sucked into your ear, right? Using capacitive electrodes. And here are Apple AirPods, earbud devices with capacitive electrodes. Capacitive sensors, they call them sensors, but they're capacitive electrodes. And every one of these things is invisible and smooth on an Apple AirPod or on an Apple headphone that's wired. And they have electrodes on them that possess the hardware necessary to read your brain. And if you think 32 versus 1 or whatever, they only got 2 points of contact on me, man. Okay, fine. I'll give you that. But what I want to show you here is something that might change your mind. Single channel EEG from MIT. And there are other examples. Single channel EEG based approach, detection method, single channel. So instead of 32, it's single channel. Neuroelectrics, MIT, more and more, and on and on and on, right? And so what this talks about is being able to, with the use of complex software, being able to understand with just as good a resolution many, many, many electrodes placed around the head with one electrode, with one sensor, one channel. Automatic real-time sleep scoring is necessary to develop user interfaces, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it says in here, PSG, we gotta define what PSG is. Polysomnography, the gold standard for sleep staging, requires a human scorer and is both complex and resource intensive. Our work demonstrates an end-to-end smartphone-based pipeline that can infer sleep stages in just single 30-second epochs with an overall accuracy of 83.5% on 20-fold cross-validation for 5-stage sleep classification, right? So what they're saying is that PSG, the gold standard, right, requires a minimum of 22 wires attached to the body in order to monitor sleep activity. The complexity of this setup requires sleeping in a hospital or a lab with an expert monitoring and scoring signals. This results in an unnatural sleep setup for subjects that affects the diagnosis. Wouldn't it also affect neuromarketing if you had to go sit down in a lab somewhere so they could put little electrodes on your head versus something like, you know, earbuds that have electrodes in them that can do things like measure your brain waves, EEG monitor with capacitive electrodes, right? One in each ear, multiple electrodes, that's multiple points of contact. And we're here looking at one that's taking a single channel, one, making contact with your skin around your head, that's taking the place of 22 wires that are attached to your body. This is from MIT. I'm just saying. The app is user-friendly, has a user interface to visualize sleep stages and EEG data with real-time stats. It connects via Bluetooth low energy to the flexible EEG headband, making it portable and comfortable to use at home. Just saying. Just saying. Let's continue. So we looked at the system and a method for gathering and analyzing biometric user feedback. That's the Nielsen patent, where it literally is soaking your biometrics and your behavior out of your cell phone. Like your cell phone, I'll restate that. Your cell phone is extracting these things out of you using the sensors and the hardware on the phone with the software that's built into the phone and or delivered through an app that you download. So we're going to look at Affectiva a little bit, but I want to show you a list that's in here in the show notes. If you want to go here, you can look under Nielsen and Affectiva patents. There are patents for all kinds of cool stuff. Analysis of marketing and entertainment effectiveness using the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and effector data. We went over that a little bit. Analysis of the mirror neuron system for evaluation of stimulus. A habituation analyzer device utilizing the central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and effector systems. Data collection system for aggregating biologically based measures in asynchronous, geographically distributed public environments. What? They can do this in public? What? Analysis of biometric user feedback for use in social media and advertising apps. We looked at this patent. Audience measurement systems and methods for digital TV. Image recognition, audience measurement. Method and apparatus to monitor mobile devices. Display device on-off detection methods. Method and apparatus to collect distributed user information for media impressions. It goes on and on and on. Method and system for measuring market share for an entire telecommunications market. Neuroresponse priming data, personalized content delivery using neuroresponse priming data. Personalized content delivery. Think about your censored or curated news feed from Apple. Think about your censored or curated Twitter feed or your Facebook feed. Personalized content delivery using neuroresponse priming data to get you on an emotional roller coaster to then feed you perspectives and perceptions, propaganda, and have it have a more meaningful, more impacting imprint onto your psyche by moving the emotional barometer while providing curated or censored content. It is propaganda with the use of science. We're following the science here on PSB, Big Tech, following the science. This shit makes me nauseous. Anyway, and then there's some down. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, there's pages of patents, pages and pages and pages of patents. Nielsen, and then there's some for Affectiva, which we're going to get into now, basically. Affectiva patents, right? Personal emotional profile generation, mental state analysis using an application programming interface, an API, mental state analysis using heart rate collection based on video imaging. Mental state analysis using a blink rate, how many times you blink. Mental state well-being monitoring. Can you imagine what the government would do with stuff like this? No, you're not fit to be a good parent. Your mental state, we're watching your mental, you're way out of parameter. You like Donald Trump way too much. You do not have the right to raise your children. You're way too Christian. You cannot impart Christian values on to the children, your children, but they're not your children. It's the children. They are the children of the state. And because you're Christian, you do not have the right to impart any of your values onto your own offspring. So these patents are here. If you want to archive them, look at them, whatever. They're incredibly interesting if you can get past the dry read. The technology is amazing. Like I started the show with earlier. If these technologies were applied properly, constitutionally even, perhaps, would be a way to sort of frame that. The notion or the ideas of being able to learn, aggressively learn at an accelerated rate is very tangible. Like we really could realize that. We could see that happen in our lifetimes. I mean, if you're not, a decade away from death. Being able to exchange emotion with the spouse who's deployed or has to work and travel while they work, or to be able to exchange emotion with your children when they're having a hard time or they need some type of reinforcement, good, bad, or indifferent, to be able to do these things would greatly enhance interpersonal connectivity at distance. So it would feel more like being right there with somebody. Imagine feeling affection, that feeling of affection that you either receive or you give, in addition to the essence of a stroke on your cheek, where it's just the nerve gently being stimulated in a very particular way on your cheek so that it feels as if somebody is stroking your cheek while you have the essence of affection. And that coming from your spouse, who happens to be 2,000 miles away, either deployed, working in another country, or I was going to say, drilling for oil, but under this administration, that's not really happening too much right now, is it? But you get the idea. These technologies are amazing. And if you don't understand what I mean by when I'm saying all this, where emotion can literally be injected into your nervous system, and then the nerves in your arm or your hand or your leg or your face can be gently stimulated as if they were being touched, or it is to associate the idea of a touch so that your spouse far away visualizes caressing your face while trying to convey love, and that can be sensorially induced upon you artificially with the technology called human bond communication. It's one version of it, and we've gone over that. We will again. It's in the archives on my YouTube channel if you want to look at it. But a dramified version, right? A simple way to understand this technology, right, is to go to humaninternetdotorg and look at Anna Avatar. It is an X Prize winner for telerobotics, remote robotics. I'll just play it for you right now. Augmented reality, practical applications, and entertainment. Remote teaching. Everybody logged into the perfect expert. Complete sensorial stimulation. Augmented reality. It's an absolutely beautiful video. But in order to understand it in order to digitize it, in order to make it feel as real as it can be, the information needs to be as natural as it can be. And extracting emotions and understanding user sentiment is a giant step in that direction. How do you know what to program and what to code and how to stimulate unless you're able to accurately and efficiently measure and extract what happens naturally? And that's really what we're looking at right now in slow motion. So, Affectiva, we have a little bit of time left. MIT offshoot, not her, but this company, Affectiva. Human perception AI analyzes complex human states. They are focusing on facial analysis, speech analytics, using computer vision, speech analytics, deep learning, and a lot of data. We analyze human states in context. Automotive AI, Affectiva in-cabin sensing redefines the occupant experience and improves road safety. Collects insights into unfiltered consumer response to ads, videos, and TV programming. Strategic insights to set up for success. Brand directions in 2021. This lady, co-founder right here, she's the MIT person. Rana, I'm not even going to start to say her last name, El Kaliboy, whatever. The CEO is the most powerful person for setting an example of great. So TED Talk by Rana, this lady, interesting lady. So we're gonna keep looking at some Affectiva here. They're just like Nielsen. They have a different type of a more specific focus. So Affectiva rebranded the emotional AI company. It's all about emotion. Emotion is what really drives us. So they've been around for a while, and now they're rebranding. They are in the business of trying to understand emotion. So emotional AI. Let's see what this says here. Emotional AI. Shortly after we, is this lady? Yeah, so the CEO wrote this article, right? That Reina lady of Affectiva. Shortly after we spun my company Affectiva out of MIT Media Lab, I had the opportunity to meet Todd of Spark Capital, one of the leading venture capitalists in the Boston area. I'll never forget the advice he gave me. The best companies, he said, are those that define a new category, name it, see it, and lead it. There are plenty of examples of companies that have done this very successfully. A few that come to mind: Uber, ride sharing; Facebook, social media; Venmo for microtransactions with your friends. So she says, we are surrounded by hyper-connected devices and advanced systems with lots of cognitive intelligence, but no emotional intelligence. At Affectiva, we envision a world where our devices can sense human emotion and adapt accordingly, transforming how we connect with technology, as well as with each other. Using machine learning and deep learning, we build software that recognizes your emotion based on your facial expression and other non-verbal behavior. And you can get to that article if you go to the show notes and look at Affectiva being rebranded as an emotion AI company. Affectiva and SoftBank partner to give robots an emotion sensing upgrade. Affectiva's emotional AI, right? They're going to put it in SoftBank's Pepper robot to allow it to recognize and respond to a more complex array of human emotions. And this is simply an example of where this is going. Devices, robots, and machines that are going to come online and come into the workforce and out into our daily lives are going to interact with us and use emotion to more efficiently move the herd along. If something is friendly to you, seemingly cooperative with you, is able to understand you and your intent and realize that you're frustrated and maybe change its behavior based on your frustration or your distraction, all of a sudden, this thing could potentially be easier to work with, live with, socialize with, have sex with than another human. Because it's going to be able to understand your emotional state and your sentiment and potentially be able to receive information about your biometric, physiologic, behavioral feedback through your nervous system or your brain waves. And according to Elon Musk, you might have the best orgasm ever because it's he said in his podcast with Joe Rogan, and I'm paraphrasing, a digital orgasm it far exceeds a natural one. I don't know how he derived that, but that's what he said. That's what he said. Lost a lot of respect for that man after listening to most of that podcast. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's move on. Here's where it gets better, right? Well, yeah, I'll show you this first and then we'll watch it. We'll watch a video here. Affectiva joins the partnership on AI. There's a partnership on AI. It's a huge conglomerate of people. Affectiva joins partnership on AI to benefit people and society. Oh, how philanthropic. Affectiva joins Amazon, Apple, Google, DeepMind, Facebook, IBM, Microsoft, and other organizations to collaborate on ethics and implications of artificial intelligence. So Bezos, Tim Cook, Sundar Pichai, as well as Eric Schmidt, Zucky Poo, IBM, which I don't know, don't really follow them, but they're in bed with Microsoft, Bill Gates, and others are collaborating on the ethics and implications of artificial intelligence. Doesn't that make you feel comfortable? I feel comfortable knowing all those psychopathic freaks are the ones debating the ethics and implications of artificial intelligence. I mean, anyway, let's, oh, there's nonprofit organizations that are also involved here too, right? And let's look at what the partnership AI organization is. Partnership on AI brings together diverse global voices to realize the promise of artificial intelligence. Research, publications, and initiatives, AI and Shared Prosperity Initiative. The role of demographic data in addressing algorithm bias. Look at, they even have racism built into this crap. They're going to build racism into AI. The role of demographic data in addressing algorithmic bias. Well, Joe Biden says that ethnic people don't know how to use the internet, so might be something to that. I don't know. Publication norms for responsible AI. Responsible AI. Huh. Bringing facial recognition systems to light. Ha ha ha. Light. You need light for a camera and oh, I get it. So clever. Closing the gaps in responsible AI. App about ML, machine learning, annotation and benchmarking on understanding and transparency of machine learning life cycles. We can't have AI getting old. No, we get rid of the old. Just ask Cuomo. Explainable machine learning in deployment. You get the idea. Partnership AI partners. Here are the partners within the partnership on AI. Amazon, Apple, the ACLU. Oh, we're saved. Good. Affectiva, right? Accenture. Just, they're all over. Cornell. The Code for Africa, CFAR. BBC, Radio Canada, Facebook, Google, IBM, Microsoft, MIT's Media Lab, OpenAI, Samsung, the X Prize, yeah. University of Southern California. They're on 4 continents and in 13 countries because they're globally conscious. How loving. X Prize, Peter Diamandis, X Prize, AI.org for Good. Global platform to advance progress on SDGs using beneficial AI. Is that strategic development goals? Good God. AI for Good. Global Summit is the leading United Nations platform for inclusive global dialogue on AI. How it is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So, AI ethics managed by Bill Gates and minions, right? All tied into the Sustainable Development Goals that have put us all in lockdown under the guise of COVID-19 to usher in the fourth industrial revolution, thereby creating global economic implosions to create mass starvation and die-offs, which is going to handle and treat the starvation problem because you'll have less people, and then usher in the fourth industrial revolution, which is 5G coupled with automation, robotics, and then fusing the humans into the global telecommunications network to then take a new position and perspective and reshaping what industry looks like in the future. And it is the technocratic management of the human populace with the phasing in of robotics and automation to then deleverage and phase out the human population, at some point reaching some type of a homeostasis where you have some people and the rest of it done with machines and automation. Good times. Affectiva partnerships with IBM Watson at the AI X Prize. IBM Watson. Wasn't that the name they gave the computer systems that they barcoded the Jews with in World War II? I think. You cannot make this shit up, folks. It's unbelievable. We'll get into the Mosaic program. I'll show you this right now real quick, but then we're going to go back and watch a video. We're going to get into multimodal objective sensing to assess individuals with context. This is from IARPA, part of the ODNI, Director of National Intelligence, right? Multimodal objective sensing. This is the intelligence side of what I've laid out in detail today. We will go over this soon. But back to Affectiva. We went over Nielsen a great deal. I want to show you a little bit about Affectiva.
Hi everyone, I'm Rana El-Kayoubi, co-founder and CEO of Affectiva. I wanted to share some exciting news with you. This year's Emotion AI Summit takes place on September 6th in downtown Boston. The theme of the summit is trust in AI, a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. We live, work, and play alongside artificial intelligence. It's ingrained in the fabric of our everyday lives. AI is embedded in the devices and technologies we use at home, at work, and on the go. And AI is doing things on our behalf to make us more efficient, faster, and sometimes even happier. But we are at an inflection point, with technology increasingly taking on roles traditionally held by humans and becoming more personal in the way that we interact with it. We need to ask ourselves, what does it take for humans to trust in AI? To trust in AI to make the right decisions, decisions that influence our lives and serve the greater good. And not only that, should AI trust in humans? I mean, we don't necessarily have an amazing track record ourselves. There are plenty of examples where this new social contract does not yet exist, where notions of trust have been violated. There's bias in data and algorithms, a lack of data privacy, unethical and even morally questionable uses of AI. So, how can we as an ecosystem come together to realize notions of trust in AI? What are the considerations? What are the challenges? And what does success look like? At the Emotion AI Summit, we will discuss trust in AI and how this manifests in vastly different areas, from automotive and robotics to healthcare, education, and even advertising. We will explore how emotion AI is a key component of building trust between humans and technology. So I hope you will join us at the Emotion AI Summit, September 6th in Boston.
What a freak. Now, everything about her body language and mannerisms looked fake as hell to me. She's just, it's just nauseating to watch. Emotion recognition and images, right? MIT Media Lab. We reviewed that in some detail last episode. You can find that show on the Cyberhuman Frontiers site. And if you want a quick, easy spot to look at all this stuff, if you go, again, INTERNETdotORG, go to the live broadcast section. Cyberhuman Frontiers YouTube channel's here. BigTech show notes archive is here. And then my YouTube channel that I'm basically just, I'm uploading these episodes to my own YouTube channel. So that's here too. And then some of the previous shows I've got listed down here. I mean, wireless technology, nanotechnology, brain-computer interface, quantum mechanics, and how it relates to biophotonic communication in the body and inside of cells. Soviet research on parapsychology. Chemogenetics, optogenetics, Russian parapsychology, the voice of God technology, ion channel resonance. We'll go over that again. Ion channel resonance is a huge, huge thing. Non-lethal weapons, 5G, Wi-Fi radio, biometric identification, wireless power introduction. The mind has no firewall. Brain-computer interface, Neuralink is not exclusive. White House quantum initiatives. 5G surveillance, ultra-wideband, biometrics, emotion and heartbeat, breath and speech can all be understood with your Wi-Fi. We'll go over that again. We watched this a little while ago. Treason, Fourth Amendment, signals intelligence. Here's human bond communication, what I was talking to you about. Huawei. Huawei is advertising human bond communication, transmitting all five senses over the internet, as a service offered with the 5G infrastructure. And they advertised this stuff to Europe in 2017. Epigenetic and protein and phenotype manipulation using electromagnetics. They can change the protein formations and your phenotypes. That's how your cells expressed one way versus another using electromagnetic radiation. How they can grow and steer brain cells. Brain Q. That's here as well. So there's a lot going on, folks, beyond fucking Netflix. So at some point we're going to move to looking at some more patents, detection and interaction of mental states, automated systems for improving communication at the human-machine interface. These are all patents. Remotely determining information as to a person's emotional state, remotely determining, right? Synthesizing emotions based on the human nervous system. This patent is from Samsung, I believe, and this thing talks about giving emotions to a humanoid, aka a robot. So what we just saw in that in the X Prize, I think it was, where they give emotions to robots. No, it was a SoftBank article. Affectiva and SoftBank partner up, and they were giving robots emotions. Samsung has a patent for that. And then we'll get into cameras. What cameras can do. Cameras can do a lot. Cameras know a lot about you. If you want to get a jump start, it's here. There's fresh content here, and there's also content, if you haven't looked at it yet, it'll be fresh to you. But if you go to INTERNETdotORG, go under bioenergy interfaces, and if you go to wearable and mobile devices, there's a camera tech link here that, I'll show you highlights right now. They can estimate your brain activity with a damn camera. In this patent, they talk about using an iPad, the camera on an iPad, to estimate what's going on in your brain with an iPad, registered trademark, using a smartphone or a tablet. Determining your emotions using a camera. Similar patents, determining your cardiovascular features using a camera, determining the location of your arteries using a camera, remote monitoring of vital signs using a camera. Your vital signs, like your heartbeat, blood pressure, that kind of stuff. Single channel imaging, measurement of dynamic changes in heart or respiration rate. Single channel, meaning red, blue, green, or infrared. One channel, not 3 or 4, not 2, but 1, using 1. To measure changes in your heartbeat or your respiration. Modifying a digital video information signal to mask biologic information. Isn't that something? So they can override those signals and hide them. That would be like a security feature, an encryption feature or something for somebody like Zucky Poo or Gates or a head of state, right? They're on camera and you could have a signal feed going out. You would put a signal in there to mask, remove, or override the heartbeat extraction capability, the respiration extraction capability, the artery mapping capability, the brainwave monitoring capability, brain activity monitoring capability. You'd be able to override that. That's what this patent talks about. Similar patents. Huawei. System and a method for generating an obfuscated optical signal, same thing, to mask biologic information, from Huawei. Biometric masking from Cisco. So more on this as time goes on. I think we're going to get into mosaics because I want to show you the government side of the same type of stuff. We looked at consumer applications today that, in my view, circumvent your constitutional protections, and particularly the Fourth Amendment, by companies who are oppressing and restricting your First Amendment, who then sell the information to the government, which circumvents your constitutional civil liberties, constitutional rights, your civil rights. And here's a program from IARPA, the intelligence version of DARPA, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, known as Mosaic, that we will go over in detail. And they are looking for the exact same things. So on that note, I bid you good day. Thanks for playing.